My twins stopped eating. Tyler said nothing. I quietly finished my wine. The next day the family accountant called her. There's been a revelation about the source of your son's wealth. What Margaret didn't know was that the multi-million-dollar investment portfolio she'd been bragging about for 3 years didn't belong to her son. It belonged to me. Let me back up. I met Tyler Morrison at a community fundraiser in Charleston. He was charming, wore an expensive watch, drove a BMW and talked about his portfolio with the casual confidence of old money. His mother, Margaret, made sure everyone knew the Morrisons were established, a word she repeated at every opportunity. When Tyler proposed after 8 months, Margaret's smile was tighter than her facelift. At our engagement dinner she pulled me aside in the powder room. I hope you understand prenuptial agreements are standard in families like ours. Her diamonds caught the light. It protects everyone. Of course, I said, applying lipstick I'd bought with my own money. I completely agree. What Margaret didn't know, what nobody knew except my lawyer, was that I'd built and sold a software company 3 years before meeting Tyler. The sale was quiet, handled through an LLC, and the $16 million sat in carefully structured accounts under my maiden name, Whitmore. I'd been tired of the startup grind, tired of being the youngest woman in every boardroom, tired of proving myself. So I'd taken a sabbatical, volunteered at nonprofits, and tried to figure out what came next. Then I met Tyler, handsome, kind, funny. The money conversation came up naturally. He mentioned his trust fund. I mentioned my consulting work. Neither of us lied exactly. We just didn't tell the whole truth. The prenup Margaret insisted on protected his assets from me. I signed it without a lawyer present, which made Margaret positively glow. Smart girl, she'd said as if I'd just passed a test. What nobody knew was that 6 months into our marriage Tyler's portfolio took a devastating hit. His father's business partner embezzled funds. The trust fund Tyler had always relied on was nearly gone. He came to me panicked, ashamed, broken. "I'm supposed to be the provider," he said, head in his hands at our kitchen table. "I'm supposed to take care of you and the business and—" "We're partners," I interrupted. "Let me help." So I did. Quietly, through a series of carefully structured investments that looked like they came from Tyler's accounts but were actually funded by mine, I rebuilt his portfolio, invested in 3 companies that later went public, and bought the commercial properties his mother bragged about. When the twins were born 2 years later, I'd already established their college funds. Every time Margaret bragged about Morrison money, she was actually bragging about Whitmore money. Tyler knew. He was grateful but also quietly devastated. We'd been in therapy for a year, working through his feelings about masculinity and provision and worth. He was getting better. We were getting stronger. But Margaret knew none of this. Which brings us to Thanksgiving. We hosted at our house, the one I bought in Mount Pleasant. Margaret arrived in her Mercedes, the one from the dealership I'd anonymously invested in, giving Tyler the friends and family pricing he thought came from a college roommate. She swept through the door with her signature criticism disguised as concern. "Darling, are those store-bought rolls? Well, I suppose with the twins you're busy." He air-kissed my cheek. Though I always found time to bake when Tyler was young. Dinner was beautiful. I'd cooked for 2 days. Tyler's sister Amanda brought wine. His brother Chris brought his new girlfriend Jen, a sweet schoolteacher whom Margaret had already deemed not good enough. The twins, Harrison and Nora, 4 years old, were showing Margaret their drawings when she launched her attack. "Tyler tells me you've been looking at private schools," Margaret said, sipping wine. "That's right. We think Palmetto Academy would be perfect for them," I replied, passing the potatoes. "Expensive though. What is it, $40,000 a year per child?" Her laugh was crystalline. "But I suppose Tyler can afford it. The Morrison portfolio has been performing beautifully." Tyler shifted. Amanda shot me a sympathetic look. Margaret continued, warming to her favorite subject, herself. "Of course, we established Tyler's trust when he was born. Proper planning. My father always said, marry for love but marry smart." She looked directly at me. "Some people understand that. Others." She trailed off meaningfully. "Mom," Tyler said quietly. "What?" "I'm simply saying your father and I made sure you were set up properly. Made sure you'd be attractive," she emphasized the word, "to the right kind of person." The table fell silent. Harrison looked between us, confused. Nora stopped eating. What Margaret means, Tyler's father Gerald said carefully, is that we're happy Tyler found someone he loves. Of course, Margaret agreed. Though love and financial security often overlap, don't they? She turned to Jen. You're a teacher, dear. How noble. Chris, darling, I hope you're being smart about things. Then she dropped the hammer. She only married Tyler for his trust fund. Gold digger written all over her. The twins' forks clattered. Amanda gasped. Gerald barked. Margaret. Tyler went pale. He opened his mouth but nothing came out. I quietly finished my wine, set down my glass and met Margaret's triumphant gaze. Dessert? I asked calmly. I made 3 pies. Margaret blinked, confused by my composure. She expected tears or fury. Instead, I served pie, made coffee, chatted with Jen about her second-grade classroom, kissed my children goodnight. Tyler was silent. Miserable. On the way out, Margaret pulled Tyler aside. I heard her whisper. You need to protect yourself. She's after everything you've built. After everyone left, Tyler and I cleaned up in silence. Finally he spoke. I'm sorry. I should have defended you. I just froze. I know. I loaded the dishwasher. But Tyler, this can't keep happening. Your mother has taken credit for my work for 3 years. She treats me like hired help who got lucky. And you've let her. He rubbed the back of his neck. What do you want me to do? I want you to tell her the truth. His face went pale. She'll be humiliated. She humiliated me in front of our children. Just give me time to figure out how. I was done waiting. The next morning I called Gregory, the family accountant, the man who'd been managing Tyler's accounts and my investments for 3 years. Gregory knew everything. He had helped me structure the funds to protect my assets while rebuilding Tyler's. Gregory, I need you to do something for me. Name it. Call Margaret. Tell her there's been an irregularity in Tyler's accounts. Tell her you need a meeting with the whole family to discuss the source of the Morrison portfolio's recent success. There was a pause, then a low chuckle. You're sure? I'm sure. It's about time. That afternoon Margaret called Tyler 6 times. He was at work and didn't pick up. She left increasingly frantic voicemails. The accountant called, something about irregularities. What's going on? Did she do something? I knew we should have protected your assets better. When Tyler got home he was ashen. Gregory called my mother. She thinks you've been stealing from me. I know. This is going to be a disaster. Maybe. Or maybe it's going to be the truth. The family meeting was scheduled for Monday morning at Gregory's downtown office. Margaret arrived dressed like she was going to court. Power suit, full armor of jewelry. Gerald looked confused. Amanda had taken the morning off work, absolutely smelling drama. Chris came alone. Jen wisely stayed away. Tyler sat next to me holding my hand so tightly my fingers went numb. Gregory opened a folder. Thank you all for coming. There's been some confusion regarding the Morrison family finances. That needs to be cleared up. Confusion. Margaret's voice was ice. Gregory, if that woman has been accessing Tyler's. Mrs. Morrison, Gregory said firm. Please let me finish. He continued. 3 years ago, Tyler's trust suffered significant losses due to the embezzlement situation with your husband's business partner. Gerald winced. Margaret's jaw tightened. At that time Tyler's portfolio was worth approximately $200,000. Today it's worth $12 million. Amanda whistled. Chris's eyes widened. That growth, Gregory said, didn't come from the Morrison Trust. It came from investments made by your daughter-in-law. Silence. Absolute echoing silence. Margaret's face contorted. Confusion, disbelief, anger. That's impossible. She does consulting work. She doesn't have that kind of money. Actually, I said quietly, I do. Their eyes snapped to me. Before I met Tyler, I built a software company. I sold it for $16 million. The sale was private, handled through my LLC. I've been using those funds to rebuild Tyler's portfolio, invest in properties, fund the twins' education and, yes, pay for the house we live in. Margaret's mouth opened. Closed. Opened again. The commercial properties on King Street you brag about at Bridge Club? I added. I bought those. The stock portfolio that's been performing beautifully? My investment strategy. The college funds for Harrison and Nora you told your sister showed such Morrison responsibility? My money. Margaret turned desperately to Tyler. Tell me this isn't true. Tyler straightened. It's true, Mom. I wanted to tell you but I was ashamed. I felt like I'd failed. But the truth is I married the smartest, most capable woman I've ever met. And instead of appreciating her, you've spent 3 years talking down to her. I was protecting you, Margaret whispered. From what? I asked. From a woman who loves your son? Who gave him his confidence back? Who rebuilt the family finances while you claimed credit? Margaret's face crumpled. For the first time since I'd met her she looked old. Why didn't you tell me? Would you have believed me? I asked softly. Or would you have found another reason to dismiss me? She had no answer. Gregory cleared his throat. One more item. Mrs. Morrison, your daughter-in-law has requested all assets be formally transferred into her name with Tyler listed as beneficiary. Given that she funded everything, this would be legally straightforward. No, I interrupted. Everyone looked at me. I don't want everything in my name. I want joint accounts. True partnership. I want Tyler's name on everything equally, because that's what marriage means. But I also want honesty. I want credit for my work. And I want respect. I looked directly at Margaret. I didn't marry your son for money. I married him because he made me laugh. Because he's a good father. Because he's been working to be a better partner. The money was mine. I chose to share it with the man I love. Tyler squeezed my hand under the table. Margaret sat very still. Then she whispered, I've been taking credit for your work. Yes. And telling everyone you were after Tyler's money when? She swallowed hard. When you were the one supporting the family. Yes. A tear rolled down her cheek. I've been terrible to you. Yes, I said again, softly this time. I don't know how to fix this. Amanda finally spoke. Start by treating your daughter-in-law like a human being. Maybe even like family. Margaret looked at me for a long moment. Then slowly she nodded. The meeting ended. Margaret left quickly, Gerald behind her. Chris touched my arm. That was the most badass thing I've ever seen. Jen's going to scream when I tell her. Amanda hugged me. I always knew you were too good for this family. On the drive home, Tyler finally said, Thank you. For what? For not leaving. For fighting for us. For being stronger than I was. At home I parked in our driveway. Our house truly ours now. We're partners, I said. That means fighting for each other. That evening Margaret texted. Can I take you to lunch this week? Just us. I have a lot to apologize for. I showed Tyler. He looked hopeful. What do you think? I thought about the digs, the assumptions, the Thanksgiving humiliation. But also about family. About the twins. About becoming better people. I think, I said slowly, that everyone deserves a chance to do better. 2 weeks later, Margaret took me to lunch at her country club. She introduced me to her friends. Properly this time. This is my daughter-in-law. She's brilliant. Built and sold a tech company before she was 30. She's been teaching me about investment strategies. It wasn't perfect. Old habits die hard. But it was a start. And when her friends asked about Tyler's success, she smiled and said, He married well. Very well. I lifted my wine and met her eyes. For the first time in 3 years there was genuine warmth. To family, Margaret said. To honesty, I countered. We clinked glasses.